Think I should be live. Yep. Okay. We are we're doing a take two because earlier I tried to stream when the camera wasn't working, and I'm pissed because all I did was reset my laptop and everything worked out fine, which is it's frustrating because like you when you know the answer and you do something so simple that fixes it, it's just annoying to know how like frustrated I was earlier because I streamed for like 45 minutes. No one told me that the stream wasn't working, but anyway, we'll do something really quick today. Um, here I have I think it's Academy of Ideas. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's a pretty good channel. I feel like we react to it a lot. So, you know, great video. Check out the channel. I feel like I should start doing that more because I know I don't know. It's one thing to react, but it just makes it so much easier when there's like these good videos that are pretty well done and pretty easy to lay out. I don't know, it's just helpful that these people have it so I can kind of riff off of it. But yeah,
security and a measure of
let me know if it's too loud.
prosperity. But where is the beauty? Where is the beauty that we know we cannot really live without? In 2009, the late English philosopher Roger Scruton warned that beauty is vanishing from our world and that
Think about cars, think about houses, think about buildings. When was the last time you drove by a house or a apartment building or an industrial building and you're like, wow, look at that work of art. Meanwhile, you look at like Gothic architecture, Gothic churches, Renaissance churches, all of these different churches, they have their own exquisite style, whereas we have this homogenized thing. I wish I could remember who said it, but think cars are basically becoming like large boxes. They no longer look like the cars from the 60s, the 70s, even the 80s. I feel like everything's kind of becoming homogenized and everything's kind of starting to look the same. And it's really quite insidious because the reason is there's like these huge investors, these huge hedge funds that will only invest in you if you're not a brand risk. So in order to appease these large investors, everything has to be so sanitized. Think about Disney movies. Everyone will talk about Disney movies, how bad they are. It doesn't even matter like who cares about what the person looks like. It's more so about the story. They can't tell a good story because it has to be so non-offensive. You can't in any way hurt this group or hurt this group or say someone's evil. Everyone has to have a justifiable evil upbringing or otherwise it's not a good movie. Like Sauron in Lord of the Rings is just evil. There's no redemption about him. And this is why the Rings of Power failed because they tried to redeem him. They tried to characterize him. He's just a force. He's not a man, he's a symbol. He's an archetype. And it's the understanding of these ideas and applying it into our own lives, applying it into our own creations that can really start to change this and really start to push back against this. But interesting enough, I think there's going to be a huge cultural and artistic renaissance in the next probably 20 years. Maybe it's not going to be a mainstream, but there's going to be a lot of underground stuff that you see come out that is really tremendous. I'm calling it right now because anytime you have people that are so in the same box, you have some of the most interesting periods of art. Like look at the grunge era. I know a lot of it doesn't really hold up today, but like, Nirvana was a whole completely new sound. Think about the origins of hip hop. That came out of, a lot of interesting developments and a lot of staleness in certain industries. Johnny Cash came from blues and he basically him and Elvis kind of invented country, but Hank Williams as well. But
the cult of ugliness is taking its
17 seconds
place.
in, I go
The
on a rant.
magnificent architecture of past centuries stands in jarring
So like imagine this is like a daily thing that you see. And these are people that like don't have iPhones. These are people that don't have iPads. These are people that don't have the internet. There was just the real secret in this, and I don't know if he's gonna say this. You had artisans who were artists. You had architects who understood painting and artistry, and they could make a aesthetically pleasing with a geometrically correct whatever work of art they're working with. This arch is probably load bearing and it has this exquisite design on it. Think about the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel the ingenuity that had to go into painting on the top of the ceiling and painting something that's so beautiful. Like it's it's the fact that nowadays, think about education. Education is so, you have to do this. You can only be good at this. Whereas back in the day, they embraced the idea of the Renaissance man. This really came from Cicero, the Roman scholar, the Roman consulate, one of the greatest lawyers who ever lived. And basically, he was a jack of all trades. He was a philosopher. He was a statesman. He was physically active. He was politically savvy. He was financially savvy. He was daring. He was bold. He was every kind of characteristic you could want to embrace. And basically, the idea of Renaissance man came from him because a bunch of Renaissance artists got his writings and kind of revived it and kind of spurred on the whole movement of the Renaissance, which, you know, it sucks that he doesn't really get his credit for it, but he is well known amongst certain circles as a great genius.
are in contrast to modern landscapes
24
dominated by
seconds in, and I'm
monotonous
probably
concrete
10
and
minutes
glass
in.
towers, uniform suburban sprawl, and abstract, soulless buildings. Contemporary music is increasingly mediocre and formulaic, while
Think even like the Statue of Liberty, or not the Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building. Statue of Liberty does look cool compared to a lot of other architecture, but that's because it was designed by French Freemasons. But um, I keep going off so many tangents, but basically, the Empire State Building, it may not be as tall as the other buildings, but it just has a look. It looks aesthetically pleasing. Like the New World Trade Center doesn't really look, it's big. It doesn't really look cool from far away though, but when you see the Empire State Building, you're like, okay, I'm in New York City. And I think there's something really, really, really iconic about it. And there's something really aesthetically pleasing about it. Although it's pretty simplistic, there's just the design is exquisite.
while the paintings and sculptures of today pale in comparison to the splendor of the great masterpieces of past centuries. Nature retains its timeless beauty, yet even this aesthetic sanctuary is being destroyed by reckless exploitation. In this video, we argue that as beauty vanishes, cultural depravity and individual immorality rises. We also examine why people turn away from beauty towards the shocking and perverse, and explore the profound truth of Fyodor Dostoevsky's bold assertion.
There is some beauty in the perverse. Like if you've ever read James Joyce, there is a deep art in that. Some of the more I guess you'd call them postmodernist artists, they can express something that is bleak, but at the same time portrays the human nature in a certain interesting light. But I think there's definitely a turn to more like perfect heroes in a sense. Like in the next 20 years, you're going to see a huge, huge, huge resurgence in perfect hero archetypes. People like Superman, people like, I mean, obviously, the Superman movie didn't do too good, but think about people like that, like Lord of the Rings. All the characters are perfect. They don't really have to grow. They kind of just grow into who they are. They don't fundamentally change. Whereas I think we saw a lot of anti-heroes. We saw a lot of people that weren't necessarily good. Think about Tony Soprano. Think about Walter White. People like that. That was kind of this whole generation, and I feel like you're starting to see a switch because you can only be an anti-hero so many times before it gets boring, before it gets stale, and it's everything ebbs and flows in trends. It's
Voiced by
interesting
Prince
to see
Michigan the
the
Idiot,
changes.
beauty will save the world. Throughout Western history, philosophers and theologians have regarded beauty as one of the three ultimate values, alongside truth and goodness. We are instinctively drawn to this trinity of virtues because, unlike goods that are pursued for some further end, beauty, truth, and goodness possess intrinsic worth. They are valuable in and of themselves. Or as Roger Scruton explains, there is an appealing idea about beauty which goes back to Plato and Plotinus, and which became incorporated by various routes into Christian theological thinking. According to this idea, beauty is an ultimate value.
At some point, the Bible was infused with like Platonic philosophy, and that's why you see such a reverence for the ancient Greeks in so many different cultures. It's extremely interesting to see because you can kind of feel the parallels. You can kind of feel the same artistic imagery.
Something that we pursue for its own sake, and for the pursuit of which no further reason need be given. Beauty should therefore be compared to truth and goodness, one member of a trio of ultimate values which justify our rational inclinations. Why believe P? Because it is true. Why want X? Because it is good. Why look at Y? Because
Okay, so what he's saying here, you'll notice that most movies, most TV shows, most books, they have the opposite. They try to break down our standards. They try to redefine them. And this is legit textbook postmodernism. And again, it can be done well. I'm not saying anything about it, but the whole idea of postmodernism is to break down all symbols that we think are beautiful. This really comes from the Frankfurt School, I think it's called, the school that was kicked out of the Weimar Republic. But this kind of seeped into a lot of our school systems, and it's kind of become a dormant philosophical tenet that you kind of see expressed in the form of media, expressed in the form of our entertainment. And as you can see, a lot of people are fed up with it right now. And I think it's super interesting to see, like, if you want to know how fed up people are, there's entire careers built off of people criticizing these ideals, built off people criticizing these poor stories. And it's almost seems like we're returning to an age of some sort of expansion. It almost feels like we're coming out of the Dark Ages. Like the Dark Ages was really a regression in scientific learning and scientific understanding and a embracement of brutality and power and conquest. And it seems like we're at the dawn of a new age. So hopefully it's a good one.
because it is beautiful. But beauty is not merely something desirable for its own sake, we also need it to live a good life. For a life devoid of beauty leaves us mentally, emotionally,
Change the
and
link.
spiritually impoverished. Or as Roger
What link?
Scruton observed, our need for beauty is not something that we could lack and still be fulfilled as people. One of the reasons we need beauty is because of the role it plays in activating our passions. In Beauty, What It Is and Why It Matters, John Mark Miraval explains that think of a time when you heard a gorgeous melody and your spine tingled, or when you cried over a beautiful story. In fact, deep feeling, a passionate reaction, is part and parcel of the whole experience of beauty. You can know the truth and not feel anything. You can choose the good and not feel anything. But you're not having an aesthetic experience. You're not appreciating beauty unless
Okay, that's a pretty good definition. I like that.
you feel something.
I don't really have
The
anything
passions
else to say
activated
about
by the
that.
experience of beauty
I
are among the
I think that's a good
noblest stirrings
definition.
of the human soul, which is why beauty, by its very
But
nature,
there,
is
what?
life enhancing. Nobody is ever repelled by beauty. Beauty is, by definition, captivating, inviting, and full of delight, wrote Miraval. When we perceive beauty, we don't question whether life is meaningful, for we feel its meaning in the marrow of our bones. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche captured the way in which beauty awakens our vital passions when he explained that, in any aesthetic doing and seeing, there is a feeling of increased strength and fullness. In this aesthetic state, one enriches everything.
Any aesthetic. I see what you're saying.
Out of one's own
I think
fullness.
Nietzsche
Whatever one sees,
is
whatever one wills, is seen swelled, taut, strong, overloaded.
the thing about Nietzsche. I think he understands a lot of the issues that we're dealing with today, but I don't think he quite gets how to say it in a manner that people can understand. Because it's like most people are here, and Nietzsche's up here, and it's really just the way he says it that upsets people. It's not what he says. And I'm sure we all have friends that like you think about the friend that all he does is roast you and it pisses you off, but what he's really trying to tell you is that like he cares about you. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about your one asshole friend that doesn't, but like it's that guy that can't say what he's trying to say in a manner that the everyday people can kind of get on board with.
Loaded with strength. In the presence of beauty, the powerful passions that awaken lift us out of our ordinary mundane state of being, and we are filled with a profound
What are you talking about, Rex? I have no idea, my
longing to
bad.
become more virtuous, more worthy of the beauty we are beholding. Beauty, by stimulating our noble passions, summons our higher self. As Jacques Maritain observed, beauty stirs in us obscurely vague and indeterminate heroic potentialities. Only broken human beings are capable of having vulgar thoughts or desires for vice in the presence of a majestic painting or breathtaking mountain range. For the rest of us, the passions that beauty activates act as a moralizing force that motivates us to shape our character into a work of art. What do we long for when we see beauty? To be beautiful, observed Friedrich Nietzsche. Or as John Mark Miraval writes, beauty is what ignites in us the passions, the desire for what is good and true, because it is presented in sense images that provoke within us such strong emotional reactions. In Rainer Maria Rilke's poem,
this is a pretty interesting video. I like where it's going. But basically what he's saying is that beauty is the thing that inspires us to be better. You know, whether it's a painting, whether it's a woman, whether it's a church, whether it's, you know, a movie. It's just something that evokes that feeling of depth, allows you to be present and say, wow, this is a tremendous experience. It kind of breaks the fog of everyday activities and kind of recenters you and refocuses you and allows you to be more present and more aware.
The archaic torso of Apollo, an individual observes with deep admiration a stunning ancient sculpture. Suddenly, he experiences a sharp shift in consciousness. He senses that while he is observing the artwork, the sculpture itself is observing him. It is penetrating his soul, revealing his shortcomings and flaws, and demanding that he become as beautiful as it. As Rilke writes, "For here there is no place that does not see you." The poem concludes with a transformative command: you must change your life. Or as Fyodor Dostoevsky wrote, one may venture to say that the purpose of the work of art is to humanize that monstrous polyp man in the lump. It is
It's such a Nietzsche quote. So think about everyday life. It has the capacity to be extremely brutal. It has the capacity to be extremely sad and very difficult. But it's really those tiny moments of peace, those tiny moments of, I don't know if it's acceptance or where everything kind of fades to the background, like when you're at Thanksgiving with your family or you're sitting around the fire with your friends and nothing kind of matters. And this is what he's talking about. He's talking about a work of art is trying to explain, is trying to capture this moment, that calmness, that stillness.
lump. It is because the experience of beauty places moral demands on us and makes us aware, via contrast, of the ugliness, corruption, and disorder of our souls that so many people today are fleeing from
Excuse too
beauty. Or as
fast.
Roger Scruton observed, aesthetic judgment is today experienced as an affliction. It imposes an
Let me know if that's
intolerable
too fast.
burden, something that we must live up to, a world of ideals and aspirations that is in sharp conflict with the tawdriness of our impoverished lives. It is perched like an owl on our shoulders while we try to hide our pet rodents in our clothes. The temptation is to turn on it and shoo it away. The desire to desecrate is a desire to turn aesthetic judgment against itself, so that it no longer seems like a judgment of us. This you see all the time in children, the delight in disgusting noises, words, illusions, which helps them to distance themselves from the adult world that judges
So the denial of art, the despising of beauty, the despising of great works is an act of defiance. So think about like a good example would be like George R. R. Martin versus James Joyce, or not James Joyce, George R. R. Martin versus Tolkien. Tolkien is the perfect hero. It's the perfect story. Everything happens according to plan. I promise you, you don't need to read the story to know how it's going to go. You can just guess. You know, Frodo's going to be the hero. Frodo's going to get rid of the ring. You know it. George R. R. Martin kind of tries to invert it. And you could see that there's interesting stories to tell here, but at the same moment it doesn't quite hit the same aesthetic. It doesn't quite lie on the same level of myth that Tolkien's works will lie on because you know Tolkien's works read like the Iliad, it reads like the Odyssey, it reads like something that will be passed down for millennia, you know, centuries at the very least. But you know, it's just the Game of Thrones series just isn't that style of book.
them and whose authority they wish to deny. To grasp the ways in which people today are desecrating and fleeing from beauty, we must understand that a key trait of beautiful objects and phenomena is that they embody a rare combination of order and surprise. It is this mixture of order and surprise that elicits the feelings of wonder we feel in the presence of beauty. For wonder is a feeling of surprise mingled with admiration caused by something beautiful, unexpected, or inexplicable. Or as John Mark Miraval explains, for example, nature is permeated with patterns, forms, and structures that can be seen and grasped and, usually, be given numerical expression. But nature isn't just orderly, it's also surprising not just in the way it is or the way it behaves, but in the fact that it exists at all. Surprise, too, then, has to be a fundamental feature of beauty. If human beings have been designed for beauty, and we have, and if beauty involves surprise, then we've all been designed for surprise. In order
Yeah, this is kind of getting like I don't know, I feel like he's getting in the weeds of things that kind of getting away from the interesting parts of this. Because I think the interesting parts of this is that, as our society gets more and more and more um, focused on the community and less focused on the individual, we kind of lose what makes human beings so special. Kind of lose that creativity, that ability to be different, that want to be different. It's never been easier to be someone else in this world. It's never been easier to hide your true self. And it's such a horrible fate because you can get through your entire life not knowing who you are. And the saddest part about it is if you're not even close to who you really are, if you're living someone else's life, you'll never be happy. And it has to do with beauty, it has to do with art, it has to do with individuality, but these problems aren't mutually exclusive. There's there's something common in all of these themes, and it has to do with expression. It has to do with living a way that you do things for the sake of yourself. You do things because you want to do them. You do things because they make you happy, and there's a certain there's a certain element of human beings that could never quite be expressed through everyday life. And this is what art fills. This is what creativity fills. This is what some form of expression fills. And this is why one of my favorite pieces of advice to give someone is, if you're really struggling, write it down. Write down the things that you're worried about. Write down the things that are, you know, difficult. And just writing it down, like it seems so simple, yet it allows you to formulate the thought. It allows you to think about it. It allows you to, in some way, get that energy out of you. And it's quite fascinating how it works, and it's definitely something that really needs to be explored more. What's up, Emmy? How's everything? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
Order to satisfy the need for surprise while also evading the moral demands beauty imposes, many people today are consuming disturbing, perverse, or sensational content, stimuli that surprises them by shocking them rather than evoking wonder. Or as Miraval explains, we're often tempted to pursue a good, namely surprise, isolated from the order to which it ought to be joined. And when surprise becomes the only goal, it instantly turns into perversion. A man who eats meat and vegetables isn't doing anything surprising, but a man who eats books is. A woman who passes you on the street and smiles politely isn't likely to surprise you, but she'll surprise you if she suddenly punches you in the neck or walks suddenly into the street and gets hit by a car. Now, these examples may seem bizarre, and they
The problem with the examples he's giving is think of cell phone addiction, think of social media addiction, think of honestly any form of addiction. It requires more and more and more and more each time. Like, the first time you went on TikTok, you were probably like, wow, this app is awesome. But now you'll be on it for an hour and you can't get the same experience. And it's just it like it sucks because I feel like it's an endless loop of wanting to find something but never finding it. And it's something that is very difficult to break out of, and just takes a while. I haven't come live for so long. I know I got like I was like busy for 1 week, and then after I was getting like migraines, and then I kind of just like was like, oh, I'll go live tomorrow. And then it was the next day, and then I'd be like, oh, I don't feel good today again. And like, life caught up with me. Like I could say I didn't have time. I was just making excuses. That's really what it comes down to. But you know, funny enough, I tried to stream earlier, and luckily you didn't show up because my audio just was not working. And it's so stupid. I literally was streaming for an hour and no one told me that my audio wasn't working. So I was playing the video, you could hear the video, but you couldn't hear what I was saying. I literally had to delete the video just in case it wasn't like I didn't want to get copyrighted. Even though I wasn't intentionally like it would just look really bad if I had it up on my channel. But yeah, no, I'm feeling better. I hope everything's good with you. I feel like I haven't caught up with you or anyone else in a while. So
are, but it's a fact that humanity today has a strong attraction to the twisted, the perverse, and the disfigured. One of the many problems with satisfying our need for surprise through disordered and perverse stimuli is that over time we become desensitized and require more and more shocking stimuli to surprise us. For example, the great 20th century playwright Robert Bolt
you're
observed a
number one
growing trend
here.
in modern theater a shift away from the pursuit of beauty toward a desire to shock the audience, and he warned that this trend would culminate in actors standing on stage screaming obscenities at the audience. Or as Miraval writes, disorder is when something lacks order, when it's broken, chaotic, perverse, twisted. This kind of thing can startle us with a kind of warped pleasure, but it leads us down the path of increasing shock and deformity. It's this that motivates people to indulge in sexual fetishism,
Dysfunctional reality TV. I was about to say, like, think of if you want to see the state of culture, look at what is popular. If you want to see the state of society, look at the things that are pushed. So look at rap music, look at reality TV, look at the things that are popularized, and you can kind of get an understanding of why certain institutions are failing because people no longer stand for anything. People no longer have, you know, respect for themselves, let alone respect for others. The grotesque.
functional reality TV, and
It's
horror
1 a.m.
movies,
here. I'll try to
claiming in the
stream
art world
earlier.
the only
I
requirement for an
I
artist is
really
to
should
break
stream earlier.
boundaries, to do something novel, or to startle or shock the audience. Another way people today are fleeing from beauty is by seeking out stimuli and creating objects that are ordered but devoid of surprise. This is most visible in modern architecture, which is a product of what Roger Scruton called the cult of utility. While most modern buildings fulfill their practical purpose, they lack beauty. Their rigid, box-like forms, dead in the senses, leave the passions dormant, and thus function as a dehumanizing force that envelops observers in an atmosphere of monotony.
It's it's the fear of being exquisite. It's the fear of standing out. You'd rather have something mediocre than something that could possibly harm someone's sensibilities. Um, I was making this example earlier, but I don't know if people were here to hear it. But basically, think of like the old churches, the old temples, or whatever it is. Like, even like the Pantheon. I think the Pantheon it's a replica standing, but these buildings are so exquisite compared to the things that are built today. Like every modern house looks exactly the same, unless you have, millions of dollars to blow and you make your own custom house and it looks really fucking stupid. Like there's no such thing as like a appealing looking house. Like look at the old castles. Obviously they're castles, so like they're exquisitely designed, but like even the old huts that you see are like way, 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 way better looking than most of the houses built today. Most of they have like my aunt actually just got this. There's like not that they're not nice houses, but they're literally brought on trucks pre-made and they put them on like the foundation and then boom, the house is there. It's like, well, it might save some costs. It's like it just doesn't have the same authenticity, for lack of better words, artistry, craftsmanship. I think these are all words that are like falling out of fashion. Like, when was the last time you saw like really good stonework? When was the last time you saw really good architecture in general that wasn't built 100 years ago? Perfect Time, Live to Me, had enough dopamine for the day. You call me boring? That's crazy. I saw that oh, what's that chick's name? Hada. I saw like the one scene where she was like in the water and the guy just refused to carry her. I thought that was hilarious. That is the only thing I saw about her. But my girlfriend, like I asked her about um Hada and she was like, "Oh my gosh."
And lifeless uniformity. Le Corbusier, one of the pioneers of modern architecture and a key figure behind the cult of utility that started to take root in the 20th century, openly declared, the heart of our ancient cities with their spires and cathedrals must be shattered to pieces and replaced by skyscrapers. Or as John Mark Miraval wrote, one obvious example of what has befallen us is the loss of aesthetic sensibilities in architecture. Where once the role of architecture was to help beautify the shared space of our cities and neighborhoods, now the role of architecture is to build utilitarian structures as cheaply as possible. The result has been a profound loss of beauty. It's a kind of vandalism. What modern building would people 1,000 years from now flock to visit as we do the Notre Dame Cathedral today? If the Gothic cathedral was the architectural statement of the Middle Ages, the big box store may well be the architectural statement of our age. This is
This is something like go through cities and it's always the most aesthetically pleasing buildings are 200, 300 years old. Like I don't know if people are familiar with America here, but there's a city in America called Camden, New Jersey, and it used to be one of the nicest cities in America. It used to be very, very rich, and then the industry dried up and they wasted all the money and they didn't invest it back, and there's all sorts of problems. But the only buildings that are appealing are like the old buildings that were built during this period. Any new structure looks terrible. It's so upsetting because they did it out of love for art, not a practicality of lower costs. Yeah, but I think there's a lot of buildings that don't cut costs that still look terrible. You know what I mean? Like think of the skyscrapers. Like there's things you could do with the skyscrapers. There's ways you can angle the windows. There's different reflections or different surfaces. Like there's a lot of things you could do to a huge building to make it look good. Like the Burj Al Khalifa looks really cool. Like there's unnumbered buildings that are billions and billions of dollars that look like shit. And that's really the point of it. They won't even get a chance to be monuments. Yeah.
Is tragic. Some social
It's more so like the houses too. Like the houses that are being built are like they just look awful. Like this, like there's houses in my neighborhood. It's literally the dumbest thing ever. You don't have skyscrapers in your country, you're lucky. They're just an eyesore. They ruin everything. You can't see the sky anymore. Like it. I don't know. I just don't think they're super practical. It's really like unless you're in New York City and the property value is that high, I don't think most cities don't need them. Most cities they only have like 20, 30-story buildings. Like even like Philly doesn't have that many cities or that many skyscrapers. Like as if you're not New York City or Chicago, there's not really. I don't know. There's maybe one or two, but like Dayton, Ohio is not really a city in comparison. Um, but like the houses in my neighborhood, it's literally so dumb because there's a balcony and a window and there's no way to get out onto it. And it's like a 6 foot drop and it's like who designed this? Like someone got paid to do that, and it's just so frustrating.
Social commentators argue that the moral decay of the West stems from the loss of religion. They claim that without religious faith, people cannot be truly
This is
virtuous. But
Dostoevsky
this
that said
explanation
this.
may put the cart before the horse. What if the deeper issue is not the erosion of religion, but the disappearance of the beauty that accompanies a
I'm not boring. I'm steady, chilling. Better be okay. I don't appreciate slander from my mom. New York looks amazing. Yeah, New York's pretty cool.
living faith? Perhaps
The thing about New York is it looks cool, and then you get out, and then it's like people are shoving to get in the subway. It takes forever to get anywhere. I just don't like the idea of everyone living on top of each other and people being that close. Just to me, it just feels like something that like I wouldn't be able to put up with. Like I like my space. I like to be able to be alone. I like to go out and walk in the woods and stuff. Like that's what calms me down. So it's just the everyday hustle bustle is not something I can handle.
it is not religious commandments and dogmas that morally elevate human beings, but beauty. History offers a striking anecdote that supports this idea. Over 1,000 years ago, Prince Vladimir the Great, the pagan ruler of Kiev, sought a new faith to unite the Russian people. He dispatched envoys to neighboring lands to study their religions. Some returned describing faiths that were rigid, austere, and heavy with punishment. Others found religions rooted in abstract theory. But the envoys who visited the Byzantine capital of Constantinople reported that the Christianity of the
Byzantine.
time drew its authority not through strict doctrine or philosophy, but via the creation of artworks of overwhelming beauty that its followers were inspired to create. Or as the envoys reported, then we went to Constantinople, and they led us to the place where they worship their God. And we knew not whether we were in heaven or earth, for on earth there is no such a vision nor beauty.
You see like Westminster Abbey because I haven't been to Rome. I haven't been to Constantinople. What they're talking about, but the oldest churches I saw were in England. Oh my, fantastic! They were so large. It's like it's astounding to me, like the meticulous detail that went into these things when you don't have spreadsheets, when you don't have, you know, laptops to record it. Like the attention to detail is just so impressive to me, and the fact that you can do all of this and make something that, probably the most fascinating part is like how the churches carry harmonics and how they can echo and how it makes, these things sound so tremendous. Like I don't know how many people have seen Interstellar, but there was a what I don't know what chapel it was, but it was a super old chapel. You guys might know, but basically they played the Interstellar theme song in that chapel, and it made it sound 100 times better. And this is over the phone too, like this is over speakers that I'm hearing it. So I can only imagine being in that church, like how tremendous it must have sounded, how impressive it must have been. You felt claustrophobic after a few weeks. Yeah, I could see that. It's definitely a place that it's fun to visit every once in a while, but it's too much. And it's weird because I feel like a lot of people like swear by New York City. Like, yeah, I pay way too much for a tiny apartment. That's my person. Like, you know what I mean? It's weird. I feel like it's like that everywhere. But New York is like there's a weird like, yeah, this city kind of sucks, but it's part of me. Like I don't know if I can quite describe it, but that's kind of the vibes I get from it.
And we do not know how to describe it. We only know that God dwells among men. We cannot forget that beauty. Because of its beauty, Prince Vladimir chose Christianity as the religion to unite the Russian people. Or as Brian Zand writes, what impressed the envoys and persuaded Prince Vladimir to embrace Christianity was not its apologetics or ethics, but its aesthetics, its beauty. Thus we might say it was beauty that brought salvation to the Russian people.
Damn,
While
that's a
vibrant
good
religions
quote.
can inspire the creation of beauty, the capacity to experience and bring forth beauty is universal.
Is this a real place? I need to go see that. That looks
And
tremendous.
transcends religion, as those who are not religious can be profoundly moved by beauty and motivated to create it. Perhaps then, what our world needs most is not a revival of religion, but of beauty, a revival that demands the courage to accept the moral demands that beauty makes on us. If this is so, rather than being naive or idealistic, Dostoevsky's declaration that beauty will save the world is a statement of profound truth. Or as Dostoevsky wrote in Demons, mankind can live without science, it can
Is it just me? See if it, because it sounds like AI, but it might just because it's fast. Mankind can live without science, it can live without bread, but it cannot live without beauty. Without beauty, there would be nothing left to do in this life. The whole secret is here, the whole history is here. Damn, that's
live
quite a
without
thought.
bread, but it cannot live without beauty. Without beauty, there would be nothing left to do in this life. The whole secret is here. The whole of history is here. Academy of Ideas.
Think of the okay, so the video is over. Think of like the stories that we tell. Think of how we romanticize certain battles or certain events in history, and like the myths that we tell are even made into art, made into beauty, made into things that make us feel better about the world around us. And I think this is a super interesting video. We'll probably react to more of this guy tomorrow, but Dostoevsky, my love. I really have to finish The Idiot because I started it and then I just put it down and I haven't picked it back up yet. I knew I was gonna do that. I don't know. I was like 200 pages in and I just was like, it's okay so far, but it just nothing quite happened yet. Nothing quite. I didn't see where he was going with it yet, and it was just I thought it was too slow. Like I definitely like slow books. I read Ulysses, but um yeah, I need to do more devoted studying of Dostoevsky because I really everything I've read by him I like. It's just it's you see something this long, you just don't want to pick it up. Reading a Herman Hesse book, which one are you reading? I think I wrote down the one you told me to get. The only reason I didn't get it is because I'm trying to read everything that I have. And I'm trying to like kind of cycle through the stuff I already have because at a certain point I'm just gonna keep buying books and just keep pushing things to the side and not read the stuff I said I was going to read earlier. But once I read a few more books, I'll probably start buying books again. But yeah, I'm having fun reading the stuff I'm reading. Right now I'm reading, what is it, The Road by Cormac McCarthy. It's pretty good. Um, I don't know where it's going, so I don't want to say if it's like a masterpiece yet, but so far it brings some interesting moral questions and reminds me of the plague, like Camus in a sense. But yeah, this is where I'm gonna leave it. I gotta go do something. Um, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for having a good fun stream. Gonna be back to streaming more often. Yeah, it feels good to be back. It feels good to have fun and talk to you guys again. Have a good rest of your night, everyone. Um, hope to see you again soon, and probably stream again tomorrow, probably a little earlier. Yeah, with that said, love you guys. Peace out. Catch you next.